Hello, everyone. This is your host, Anita from Indian American TV. And today I have the pleasure to welcome the perfect guest for our show, none other than Soundarya, the author of a book on immigration called Unshackled. I recently had the privilege to attend her book launch, and wow, she did such a phenomenal job. So, without much further ado, I would let Soundarya introduce herself. Hello, Soundarya. Welcome to the show.
Hey, Anita. Thanks so much. Really glad to be here.
Would you like to say some things about yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. I moved to the States all the way back in 2017. So it's been about 6 years,
Mhm.
almost exactly 6 years since I moved. And back then it was for my master's. I went to Columbia University in New York for my master's. And and then I, like many other students who come from India, went the corporate route and joined Salesforce as a product manager. But it was clear to me within the first few months that I kind of didn't belong there, that I was supposed to do something else. I wasn't sure what that something else was back then. And it took a lot of experimentation to get to where I am.
Mhm.
But yeah, about a year and a half ago, I quit my job there as a full-time product manager and joined a very small startup to work part-time and just be doing independent research outside on different topics.
Mhm.
So immigration was never the top of my mind in terms of a topic I would ever explore. But as I was figuring out immigration for my own personal needs around how can you start a company, how can you um, build your own business in the States, I just happened to come across a lot of resources that I thought could help other people. And that's when this whole project began about a year ago. And and yeah, we had a book launch last Saturday for this.
Awesome. Thank you. And do you have a book you can show to the audience on
Yes,
camera?
I do actually. Um, if audience can see, this is Unshackled. So I mean, hopefully they understand what this means. This is like the US map.
Uh-huh.
And we wanted to kind of showcase that if you look at it closely, all of the dots around the map are people,
Uh-huh.
and they're supposed to show immigrants who are all the way from a software engineer to a researcher to a scientist to a kid who just moved here. Um, and we just wanted to show that, at the end of the day, immigrants have in a great way made this country what it is. And at the same time, there are also people who are still kind of at the border. We're not fully inside, but we're not fully outside as well, somewhere in between.
So, what do you mean by not fully inside and not fully outside? And you are absolutely right. America is a land of immigrants. And we have some famous ones like Steve Jobs, who made Apple. He was, I think, from Serbia or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't even mean these big name examples like Steve Jobs or Elon Musk or Sundar Pichai. I'm talking about the millions of people who are here on a temporary visa,
Mhm.
who are they're half here and half outside because you're here in the sense that of course you're living here, working here, making money here and contributing to the tax system here, but all of it can go away tomorrow, or all of it can be removed from under your feet in a month if you get laid off or if your visa gets expired. And I think that's the reality of the situation.
Yes.
Of course, there needs to be rules and regulations, and a country can't just let anyone in at any point in time.
Mhm.
But I do feel like the immigration system in the States is outdated by 33 years.
Mhm.
And I can talk more about that if you'd like me to.
Yeah, sure. So why do you say 33 years? Now, why not 10 years, 20, 50? What made you pick that number?
Because 1990 was the last time that the US passed a comprehensive immigration reform bill.
Mhm.
So we passed, if you look at the history of reform, there's bills passed in 1952, 1965, 1990, 1986 as well, but not since then. There have been minor improvements to different policies, but there's been no comprehensive upgrade of the way that we let people inside, naturalize them, and let them live and work here.
Okay. So you're talking about the people who come on F1 visa or on F or H1 visa, like who have to wait, like maybe sometimes they wait 10 years to get their green card
I mean,
before
I'm
they.
talking about everyone actually, anyone who's not American born, who decides to move to this country as a student on F1, as a worker on H1, or even um, I mean, even as someone who is undocumented or who is a refugee. Of course, my book does not focus on
Okay.
it focuses on a very narrow set of immigrants who I call high skilled immigrants,
Uh-huh.
who come here for studying and working.
Hmm.
But of course, the law has not been changed for everyone
Okay.
who
Yeah,
is not
like
American
even
born.
people who come like on a visitor visa.
Yeah, or for people who are refugees and asylum, and so on. So
Mhm.
it's a whole spectrum.
Awesome. Thank you. So what inspired you to write the book apart from your personal journey as a student and then on a working visa?
I I think it was just what I felt that was the message from the community.
Mhm.
When Samir is my co-author. He's a practicing lawyer and has been a lawyer for the last 20 plus years. So when Samir and I decided, okay, maybe this is worth working on, we made a post on LinkedIn, which ended up reaching over 200,000 people back then within a few days of publishing it. And, over I think 304 or 400 people commented on both of our posts combined. And every single comment made us realize that this is worth working on.
Mhm.
I don't think either of us had an idea of what this would become back then.
Yeah.
I had an idea of maybe it'll be nice to write a book that compiles the best research out there on this topic.
Mhm.
But even I didn't know what to expect as a response from the community. So this has been very community driven from day zero, I would say. And Yeah, since then I've received messages from hundreds of immigrants, probably thousands.
Mhm.
And it's all in the same vein of people feeling frustrated or people feeling a sense of confusion, not knowing what to do, or a sense of lack of knowledge that they don't even know that certain options exist that could actually solve their problems. They just needed to know that this option existed for them.
No, I totally agree. Like I can even give you my example. I came on H1B and then got my green card, and right now I'm a citizen. But when I do more research than most people, and so I was able to file my consular processing. So I saved 5 or 6 years on my visa processing to get my green card, whereas most people file I-140 and then 485, which takes them a lot of years. So in consular, you don't have to file the 485. Basically, as soon as your I-140 is cleared, you have your green card. But many people, even right now, when I talk to them, they're not even aware of that.
Hmm.
So I think maybe would you suggest like when any person comes on some visa, they either there is a course or some kind of I would say knowledge base where if they want they can access and get all the information they need to make the right decisions.
Yeah, I of course the book is a starting point. It doesn't cover all the visas
Yeah.
out there, but it covers all the major ones that one should be knowing if they want to start companies, work, or settle down in the States. But I think beyond that, I can recommend a few websites. There is IMMI Help, IMMIHelp.com or .org that has a ton of information. USCIS obviously has information on their own website, but it's just not very readable for
Yes,
someone
it's
who's
not
from a
user friendly.
non-legal world.
Yeah. Mhm.
Exactly. And I know they're trying to improve that because my guest at the event was Doug Rand, who currently is the director of or advisor to the director of USCIS.
Uh-huh.
And formerly, he worked under Obama on a string of policies to help immigrants. So, yeah, I just feel like just taking that first step and searching for what are my options
Yes.
to work, study, start companies, settle down in the US is enough.
No, no, that's amazing. And how were you able to get Doug Grant to come and attend the book launch? Because I'm sure he doesn't live in the Bay Area.
Yeah, he lives in Washington, D.C. Um, I actually interviewed Doug for one of the chapters in my book.
Uh-huh.
One of my favorite chapters in the book is the first one where we take people back in time by 10 years, and then we show them what happened behind the scenes of the walls of White House when Congress tried to pass immigration reform the last time in this country. And we kind of show people the sequence of events that happened, that took place, where it looked like they were going to pass it, and then they didn't. So Doug was our main source in kind of helping us piece together the different events that happened back then and adding so much color to what happened. So that's how I got in touch with him, through a mutual friend. And I just kept in touch with him for 9 months as the book progressed. And it was pretty obvious to me that he should be our keynote panelist. And I'm glad he agreed.
No, thanks and congratulations on influencing him enough to come all the way, and also being able to get the information right from the horse's mouth.
Right.
Rather than something you read somewhere, which may or may not be true. So I'm very, very impressed. That's amazing.
Thanks.
And I think from the other people also I saw in your event, some of them were very accomplished themselves, and for them to spend all that energy and time and come and attend and appreciate, so that already shows what a great influencer you are. In
Thanks.
order to get them to come, right? So that's really amazing, especially you being an immigrant, first generation from another country. So what are some of the tips you would give to someone who's, suppose, wanting to come to US on a work visa from either India or some other country, and what things they should take into account or look out for, especially if they want to stay here and get residentship?
So before somebody comes here on a work visa, it's actually, I'm more used to talking to people who come here on a student visa, because that's how I came. And my first book, Admitted, was aimed at helping people who wanted to study abroad. So, so a lot of the people who read that book, I feel like if I could tell them something, it is just that know your options, number one. Ask yourself why you want to immigrate to the US in the first place. Why America? Or what is making you want to come to this specific country? So understanding options, asking the why question, and also understanding the constraints of the options. Because I feel that the news obviously covers a lot about the H-1B and the lottery, but it's also the news, which is incentivized what will get people to, what will get people to click on it. So it's not giving you the whole picture. And that's where I think it's important to do some more extra research to see, okay, what are the other work visas? What are the limitations of each of them? Because someone might come here thinking that, let's say the L1, for example, L1 is an intra-company work visa that lets you transfer your employees and executives from another company abroad. But it has very serious limitations. And I'm just thinking of an example of that. So on an L1, if for whatever reason you want to leave this company and switch to another one, you cannot do that because the L1 is tied to that company. But on an H1B, you can switch between employers. On the other hand, the L1 has no annual cap, but the H1B has. So all these little things really start mattering when you're in a new place and a new country. And I just feel like with Unshackled, we wanted to make the very complex and boring as simple as possible, so people take the time to understand it, because this is going to affect their future. This is not a faraway problem that's never going to happen. It is going to happen to everyone who enters this country, because we're all here temporarily on a visa.
That's true. So right now that you were talking about L1 versus H1, in which of the visa categories among the two is easier to get a permanent residentship, L1 or H1?
That's hard to answer again, because the L1 has something called the EB1C, which is a green card that is given to people who are managers who spent a year abroad. So the EB1C has a much shorter queue than an EB2 or EB3. So in that way, you could say, oh, the L1 is the better way then. But At the same time, you could also say the L1 is tied to your company. So
Yeah.
until you get your EB1C, you have to stay in that one company,
Mhm.
or the EB1C might get denied in the end. So I feel like easier is almost not the right question here, because the question should be, what are the pros and cons of all
Yeah.
of the different
Yeah.
pathways?
Like, like you mean to say like both have their own pros and cons, so one has to weigh which one works, which one doesn't work.
Absolutely. And in the book, we kind of talk about there are several tables in the book where we
Uh-huh.
compare different pathways. So people can, because everyone knows the H1B. So it's
Yes.
very helpful for them if we use the H1 as a reference to compare other pathways.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, because most people who come on a work visa come on a H-1B.
Yeah, exactly.
And then they, I mean, if they get the green card, well and good. If they don't, they move back.
Right.
So what made you decide to come to the US versus stay in India or some other country?
It's because I came to the States in 2016 through a scholarship program to spend a summer
Mhm.
interning at UW-Madison.
Okay.
So I had such a good exposure to the country. I loved those 3 months that I spent here. And it was pretty obvious to me within the first few days of coming to the US that this is where I'm going to do my master's.
Mhm.
Um, because at the end of the day, it is, it's such an exciting thing to move to a new country, to experience an entirely new culture, weather, people, etiquettes,
Mhm.
everything, right? So I feel that I would bet that anyone who's a student who's immigrating to the US or even other countries, um, they're doing so because they want something more out of their lives. They want a better university. They want to be around people who are more in line with what they
Mhm.
want to do, or they want a more progressive society. Whatever the reason is, it's
Yeah.
always you're taking this insane risk of leaving everything you know behind. And so, yeah, I feel like I knew I wanted to move to the US within a few days of being here.
So what city did you land in the first time you came?
I went to Madison, Wisconsin.
Okay, that's good. Okay, I haven't been there. Okay. And you like that place? That's amazing because many people say that it's not that friendly to immigrants.
Um, I think it's hard to like generalize that, but I was inside a university setting. I think universities are in general very, liberal.
Yes. No, that's cool. Yeah. Well, I have my nephews and nieces went to France and Germany on a EU scholarship to do their masters, and so of course, EU is different than America, but again, it's another foreign country with even a language barrier more than anything else
Hmm.
to study. But yeah, so it's I'm glad you liked the experience. I mean, many people like it. Many people find it very difficult to adjust because they have left everything which was in their comfort zone behind, right?
Right.
So for some people, it might be a little bit more difficult than others. So, what's the best thing you liked about your studies here since you came on a student visa? And what made you inspired to write the book? Like, I don't know whether you wrote your first book also here or in India, or like what made you decide, okay, I want to go write a book now?
Um, I have been writing since I was 16. I'm 26 now. So I was part of several undergrad
Mhm.
content writing clubs.
Oh,
And thanks to that, I began writing. I was writing fiction. I was writing about physics, science, astronomy, so many topics.
that's so nice.
And along the way, when I came to the States, I began writing about my life as well.
Mhm.
Just life in this new country, lessons I'm learning every month as a student. I even have a book on my website called, it's a free book. It
Mhm.
just says The Life of a Columbia University Grad Student. And it's a
Wow.
compilation of like 16 essays I wrote
Mhm.
for the 16 months at Columbia. So it was always an outlet for me to process what's happening in life. I never thought I'd become an author though, meaning make this my career. It was
Mhm.
always a hobby for me.
Okay.
But when I finished writing Admitted, this was written during the pandemic when I was still working at Salesforce. This was just a side project that I was doing as a voluntary
Mhm.
project. But once I was done writing it, it was pretty obvious to me that this is what I want to do for my life. I want to keep finding topics to write about.
Awesome.
that are actually topical, they're relevant,
Mhm.
and they have the ability to make somebody else's life easier, simpler, happier,
Mhm.
however you phrase it. And it so happened that I chose topics which are very personal to me. Like Admitted was about my experience of moving to a new country
Mhm.
and helping others through theirs. And Unshackled was about my experience, once again, of navigating immigration
Yes.
and helping others.
Yeah, I think your personal story, I feel, always makes the world of difference. Like I have been writing poetry since I was 8 years old. So I have still haven't published my poetry book, but I have won some awards like Outstanding Poet of the Year. And then I wrote that book, Find Your Happy Survivor's Guide to Finding Joy in Spite of Life Challenges. And again, my life story inspired me to even start writing that book, right?
Hmm.
Before I even opened my startup on mental wellness, because it's all because of my own life experiences. Otherwise, I would still be in the corporate world in some senior position managing a few countries. Yeah. So I totally agree. Like having your own experience and adding that flavor to it gives it a more personal touch, and that way people can relate to it more emotionally, right?
Yeah.
And why did you choose to move to California versus stay in near Columbia? I believe it's in New York, right?
Yeah, yeah. I was in New York for Columbia, and then because I my Salesforce job was in Seattle, I moved there for a while.
Okay.
But during the pandemic, everything went virtual.
Mhm.
So it gave me a chance to think of where do I want to be? And at that point, honestly, I wanted to become an entrepreneur,
Uh-huh.
start something of my own. And it just, I asked myself, what is the best city for that?
Mhm.
And it was pretty obvious that it was
Yeah.
Silicon Valley. But even then, I think the real reason I moved was there was nothing keeping me in Seattle or Bellevue where I was staying. And I wasn't happy there for several other reasons.
Yes.
So I just woke up on May 22nd, I think, and I just had this feeling I have to move today. And
Wow.
thankfully, I acted on the feeling. I
Uh-huh.
immediately acted on it by telling my roommate that I'm moving out. I told my landlord I'm moving out. I sent an email to my boss at Salesforce saying that I'm moving to California. So I did like a chain of events after that, which set it in motion. And then I moved actually within the next 2 or 3 weeks to
And
California.
this May to be this
No, not this way. This was
oh,
3 years ago
3 years
during
ago.
the
Okay.
pandemic.
Okay. Oh, awesome. Awesome. Nice. Nice. But I think yeah, pandemic, there were too many closures here. Actually, many of my friends during the pandemic moved to Florida because there were no closures.
Yeah,
And
that's funny because most people moved out of the Bay
yes,
during the
yes,
pandemic,
yeah. Mhm.
which also helped me because it brought down rent prices.
Awesome. That's nice. And you
Yeah.
like it here right now.
Yeah, I feel very, very at home here. But I spent half of this year in India. So
Okay.
um, I'll probably be shuttling back and forth between India and the US at least for the next year or two.
Oh, nice, nice. Because of family or?
Family, but also, I wanted to work on this project full time.
Uh-huh.
And because I was still working on it part time last year, I decided let's just go to India
Uh-huh.
and put my head down and focus on the book full time, the community full time.
Awesome.
And I'm going back to India again next week
Uh-huh.
to spend a few more months there.
Oh,
And
that's nice.
so, yeah, I never expected to spend this much time in India. But
Mhm.
once again, um, yeah, that's a totally different conversation. But I am so happy that I did so because it gave me a very new appreciation for India as a country there.
Yeah. No, totally true. If I didn't stay here for this long, I ap- wouldn't appreciate India or the Indian culture as much as I do right now. Let's me put it that way.
Mhm.
To be frank, yeah. So, what advice would you give to someone who is thinking about the grass is always greener on the other side, trying to move to US and of course, see, always I feel that unless you live somewhere you don't know the all the different aspects which is involved, right, both the pros and the cons, because if you just look at the pros, then it always looks much greener, but once you come, once you live, once you see, oh, there are so many homeless people, oh, this one got mugged, or this one, right? So you have to deal with all the other things as well. So what would you suggest to someone who's thinking about, okay, I'm coming here for that uh, to I guess, to for want of a better word, to live the American dream, right? like we see in the movies. So, what reality check would you like to give them?
Um, I think I mentioned this in the book as well, is
Mm.
that coming to the US is like reaching the top of a mountain. It really is. I remember how incredibly excited I felt the first day I landed in New York. But I think it's important to remember that that's when you start climbing an even bigger mountain next.
Yeah.
So, just something to keep in mind is that it's going to be difficult, but it's not because you're unprepared or you're stupid or you don't know what to do. It's because you're doing something that's inherently hard.
Yes.
Like you're going to an entirely new country where you don't know a single person
Yeah.
and you're starting over. So yeah, I would just say that be as prepared as one can before coming to a country. And the best way is to talk to people who are there,
Yes. To
like
get all the
live
idea.
through them for a while.
Mhm.
And then once you're here, just building a support system, obviously, which I think immigrants do by default, because we do gravitate towards other people from our culture,
Yeah.
or at least most of us do that. And that really helped me at Columbia, like having this friend circle that I had. Um, and having a mentor changed my life. I mean, this Rajesh is much more than a mentor to me, but I met someone called Rajesh Sethi, who I've talked a lot about in the
Mhm.
book, in on my social media posts.
Mhm.
But he's kind of showed me the power of what exceptional mentorship can do to your life. He's the reason most of the things, anything good in the last 2 years that happened, he was a part of that.
No, that's amazing. And I cannot stress enough how much a good mentor can pretty much help you avoid all the potholes on the way and guide you towards the right path. Because even for my startup, I have come so far only because of the mentors. And I did have a chance to meet him and talk to him briefly. And he seems like a amazing personality. And I might have a follow-up conversation once my schedule gets a little bit easier. But right now, I have a lot of different pieces of the puzzle I'm trying to put into the place because I also have a non-profit Shanti Home where we are building libraries in small towns in India for underprivileged kids because they don't
Hmm.
have it. So that's another pet project apart from my happiness factors. And then I'm the president of the Santa Clara University MBA Club. So all three take so much of my time, right? So, but I would also say, like, do you think it will help people who are trying to come if people wrote the reality rather than just paint like a starry picture about life here?
It's a good question. Yes, the answer is yes. Like writing reality also is, I feel like one person's reality can be extremely cynical while somebody else's can be extremely optimistic.
Absolutely.
So it's a balance,
Mhm.
but I definitely think it's important for people to, like, the undercurrent theme being that moving to a new country is going to be hard. You're going to be hit with a lot of culture shocks
Mhm.
and you're going to have to build your support system again.
Yes.
That's going to be true for everyone.
Yes.
And so, yeah, I agree with what you said.
No, thank you. The reason I mentioned it because I was reading a few blogs of some people who have moved back and some people who have stayed, and many of them have said that I would have prepared better if people had mentioned the realities rather than just painting that
Absolutely.
picture, right? Because then
Absolutely.
you are prepared for other things as well, right? Both the pros as well as cons, and that I think makes people more. If we have all the information, we can make better decisions in life, right?
Absolutely.
So, are you planning to write another book?
um, yes, hopefully many more books.
Awesome.
Uh, but yeah, I'm definitely planning to write more books.
Nice, nice. Actually, I'm working on my book on leadership right now on the site but I'm interviewing different people for that, and it will
Amazing.
take a while because the people I'm trying to interview, I have to get on their calendar. Let's put it that way, which is a little bit right now. It's a little bit difficult because these are super busy people, but I know I'll get it. But only thing is, so my book, depending on when I get the time, the book gets finished, right? Uh, but I'm very impressed with what you have accomplished in such a short amount of time in coming to another country, because I think getting out of the comfort zone is one of the most difficult things anyone faces. And when we are moving halfway across the world, you can't be have a bigger getting out of comfort zone than that, right?
Yeah, yeah,
And you don't
absolutely.
have your family or any support system who always look out for you, right? In India, we always look out for each other in general, like as a family, right? So you are totally on your own, and you have to totally make your not just your own decisions, but look out for yourself and other things. So, did you have any bad experience in when you were going to school in Colombia? Like anything you would like to mention to any fellow students?
Um, Nothing. I don't know. I
Mhm.
can't think of anything bad during the session as a student, but my first day was it was just a very weird day. I've talked about this in depth in the first book, Admitted, but I just happened to have a really scary and terrible first day because of a series of events that happened on the same day, and it ended up in me kind of regretting coming to the States
Mhm.
that night. But then it certainly picked up after that. Like it was really bad, and then it became very,
Care to
very
share what happened?
nothing. That's so it was a lot of minor things,
Mhm.
like I landed at 9 a.m. and I got sick on the flight. So I
Oh.
was so fatigued when I landed,
Mhm.
but I still decided to spend the entire day with these people who eventually became friends, but they were strangers back then.
Yeah.
And so as an introvert, it was extremely hard to just feel comfortable being
Mhm.
around 20 new people. And that night, I decided to go home by myself.
Mhm.
And then I got lost on the subway
Mhm.
and I landed in Harlem, which is very unsafe as a city.
Mhm.
And my phone died. So it was like a series of
Scary.
everything
Yeah.
that could go wrong went wrong that day.
Yeah.
And thankfully, I got home safe because I knew the address,
Mhm.
but it could have gone really wrong that night. So I just felt very, very regretful that night, feeling like, why did I leave
Mhm.
that
Yeah.
I've known to be everything that I've known to be familiar to come to this country?
Yeah. No, I totally agree because I have had even like here also we have the BART instead of subway, and many of my ex-classmates and other people have gotten mugged on
Yeah,
Soundarya.
I was really scared of that as well that night.
So yeah, but I'm glad that you were safe, and you got to write the book, and I think just your story alone is going to help so many people, not just from Indian origin, but people from other countries also who come as on a student visa or just come on a visitor visa who don't know much about the country, right? Because
Thank
I
you.
meet a lot of them, especially in the startup world. Like some of them have come and they did one course. Now they're trying to start a startup and they don't know how to like stay here basically, let alone the green card will be further off, right?
Hmm.
So they don't know how to go about the process because they can't even get an H-1B.
Hmm.
So that's their dilemma, and these are mostly from Europe rather than Asia, because I think Asian people usually don't get that kind of student visa that easy unless you have a degree.
Mhm.
People are not on a degree, like they just came for some certificate program which ended in 3 months, right? So yeah, so what message you would give, I would say, like what even rather than message, what piece of advice would you give to someone, suppose your age, who is trying to come here to do master's degrees in some university they don't know anything about, like they've never been to outside of the country before, and they got the admission and they want to come? What message would you give to those people?
Um, I would say take more risks,
Mhm.
more than what they were planning to.
Uh-huh.
I wish I took more risks. So that would be my message.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you. And so, can you show your book again?
Yeah, absolutely.
I want to share with the viewers that the book is available on Amazon, right?
Yes, Amazon Kindle and paperback.
Okay. And is it also available on audio as an audiobook?
Not yet. It's
Okay.
something I'm planning to do though. Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. Yeah, because many of my friends like they say, oh, they only listen to audiobooks. But that's good. So it's available on as a digital version as well as a hard copy version. And if you're local to the Bay Area, you can get it signed by none other than Soundarya herself. And if you have any questions, do you have any contact information you would like to share with the viewers? Where
Sure. I mean, I think the best thing is to go to my LinkedIn profile. I'm pretty active there. They
Okay.
can just search my full name, Soundarya Subramani, on LinkedIn.
Okay.
And my email is also on my profile summary.
Awesome. So if you want to reach her, reach out to her on LinkedIn and at Soundarya Bala Subramani. And if you can't find her, reach out to me at Indian American TV. This is Anita, and I will help you direct to Soundarya. And thank you so much, Soundarya. So it's great having you here. And I look forward to reading many more books, seeing many
Thank
more
you.
launches, and following your success, because one immigrant success is, I feel, is every immigrant success, because they all can learn from that, and we all can dream big, and we all can hope to achieve whatever dreams we are going through.